All right, welcome back to part 4 of our real estate exam prep. And hopefully you've looked at the first 3 parts. And, we're not covering a lot of, usually about 10 questions to each video here. But the reason I'm doing just 10 is, I want to make sure, one, you understand the questions. It'll help you when you're taking the state exam if you'll learn how to understand the question and maybe how to try to eliminate 2, if not 3, of the possible answers. Cuts our or it enhances our chances of getting the question right, I hope. But anyway, so let's continue. So we have a question here really dealing with appraisal type stuff. But it says you have a comparable property that sold for $250,000. It has 200 more square feet than the subject. It says if the square footage contributes $30 per square foot, then what is the adjusted value of the comparable? Well, one of the things you need to certainly remember here, it's kind of like a memory item. And y'all, I hope as we go through these videos, and I'm sharing things that that I'm telling you is a memory item, y'all write them down, because it is, you got to remember some of this stuff and it's not going to be provided to you in the question. So the memory item here, if you don't already know this, anytime the comparable has more than the subject, then you must always subtract, because that's what we're dealing with right here. We're making adjustments. And anytime the comparable has more than the subject, you must subtract. Now, if the comparable has less than the subject, then you must add. It's imperative that you remember that if you're going to get some of these adjustment questions correct. All right, but it says the square footage contributes $30 per square foot. So what would be the value of that additional 200 feet? Well, 200 feet times $30. If my math is right, I think it's $6,000. So really the question is, do I add $6,000 from the sales price, which was $250,000, or do I subtract the $6,000? And the question says the comparable has 200 feet more. So anytime the comparable has more, then we must subtract. So if you subtract the the 6,000 from the 250,000, then the right answer should be C, 244,000. So, and there you see the math there on the screen now. But these should be pretty simple when you get questions like this, and you're going to get those. So these should be some easy ones that you could put in your basket. But all right, so let's move on to another one. All the following statements concerning real estate financing are correct, except, so obviously when you put the except, we're trying to find the statement here that would not be accurate or would not be correct. Well, A says the mortgage generally is considered a lien. Well, that's a true statement. The mortgage is a lien, so that's not the right answer. B, the mortgagee is the lender. And I will tell you, this is an area that a lot of people get confused with these EEs and OR, like mortgagee, mortgagor. In fact, this is probably the most common where we tend to get things backwards here. So you got to make sure, one, who is the mortgagee and who is the mortgagor. Well, B says the mortgagee is the lender, and I'll tell you that's a true statement. The mortgagee is the lender. The mortgagor would be the borrower. You've probably heard me say this before, but I'll go ahead and repeat it again. OR gives, EE receives. So here we're talking about a mortgage. So who's receiving the mortgage and who's giving the mortgage? And I will tell you, this is why most people get this wrong, or at least trying to figure out who is who, because in our mind, I guess we're just trained to think this way. but at least in our brain, we're thinking a mortgage is the loan. A mortgage is not a loan. In fact, if you go back to A, it says there, a mortgage is the lien. It's not the loan. So people are thinking, well, the borrower is receiving the mortgage, thinking it's a loan. Well, they are receiving a loan, but the mortgage is not a loan. The mortgage is the security for the debt. Yeah, that's the lien. Now, who's receiving the mortgage? The lender. So EE receives. So who's receiving the mortgage? The lender. So y'all, just to explain B there a little bit. Hopefully that makes sense. But anyway, then paragraph C, an owner of the property by whom the mortgage is executed is called the mortgagor. We all, a more friendly way of putting this, who's the borrower? The owner of the property, that's the person buying or borrowing the money to purchase the house. Well, that's the person giving the mortgage to the lender, so that would be the mortgagor. So the borrower is the mortgagor, so that would be an accurate and true statement. D, a promissory note is security for the mortgage. That's the wrong answer, which is the one they're looking for. We're trying to figure out which of these would be the incorrect statement, right? It's actually the mortgage is the security for the promissory note. By the way, the promissory note is the loan. Okay, so that one's backwards. So D is wrong. So that would make that the right answer because that's an incorrect statement. So the promissory note is security for the mortgage. That's the wrong answer. Okay, or a wrong statement rather. The next question. A promissory note is not a negotiable instrument. Well, it is. And by the way, the promissory note, just to be clear, we just talked about in the previous question, but this is the actual loan. Is the loan and the terms of the loan, is that negotiable? In large, it is. It certainly is. So it is a negotiable instrument. B, is it evidence of debt? It is. So that would not be the right answer. A document in which the debtor agrees to repay the stated loan. That's a true statement. Because when you sign that promissory note, you're promising to repay this debt, right? Under the terms and conditions you negotiated. D, it's evidence of title. That would be the correct answer for the question because a promissory note is not evidence of title. I will tell you, there, right or wrong, there are people that own property that somebody else is paying for, right? So the loan might be in somebody else's name, but deeded to someone totally different. So it's not evidence of title. So just because you have the loan does not mean you own the property. Now, obviously, that's not common, I wouldn't think, but it does happen. It happens. So it's not evidence of title. And then 43, which of the following payment plans allows for periodic payments of interest only? So we're dealing with an interest only loan with the principal due at the lump sum payment at maturity. So we're looking for a interest only loan. And basically saying, you know, once you pay off or make the payments at the maturity or at the end of the loan, then you got to pay off whatever you borrowed. Because remember, you're not paying down any principal with an interest only loan. You're just paying interest. So which of these would be an interest only loan? Amortized, well, that's not, because we know an amortized loan includes both principal and interest. Flexible loan, never even heard of that. So I would, you know, by the way, I think I've said this before, but you know, if there's an answer there that does not look familiar, haven't seen it, haven't talked about it, chances are I'd stay away from it. Probably a reason we haven't seen it or talked about it, right? So flexible is not right. Straight, a straight term mortgage, that is an interest only loan. And then balloon, you know, there's no balloon loan. There are balloon payments, no balloon loan. But the right answer should be C, a straight term mortgage. Again, that is an interest only loan. No principal is included. So you're not paying off any debt. You're just paying the interest on the debt. All right. The next question. Which of the following is not a characteristic of a conventional loan? So which of the following is not a characteristic of a conventional loan? A, it is neither insured nor guaranteed by a public agency. Well, that's true. It's not insured nor guaranteed by a public agency. B, security rests on the borrower's ability to pay and the collateral pledged. That's a true statement. C, it's never insured by a private agency. That is not a true statement because conventional loans are insured by a private agency. So I think C is probably going to be the right answer. But if you look at D, the ratio of the LTV, which is loan to value, of the property usually does not exceed 80% without PMI. That's the private mortgage insurance. And that again is a true statement. If you put down less than 20% with a conventional loan, typically you're going to have to pay PMI, the private mortgage insurance. So A, B, and D are true or accurate statements. Those are in fact characteristics of a conventional loan. C is not. So C should be the right answer. All right. Again, it is never insured. It is insured. Conventional loans are insured by private agencies, not public. Okay. Next question. Depending on the value of the house and the income of the veteran, the Department of Veterans Affairs will guarantee a lender up to 4 times the amount of the veteran's entitlement up to. So now I will tell you, this really is another memory item, honestly. But what the question is saying here, now it's not asking how much will they loan. First of all, the VA does not loan money. What does the VA do? They guarantee the loan, right? They don't make the loan, but they'll tell the lender, you make the loan and we will guarantee the loan amount. And I will tell you the right answer is D, up to $104,250. Okay. Y'all, that is the max that the VA will guarantee. Now, typically the lender will loan more than that. And quite frankly, a rule of thumb, I don't know this would be important for test purposes, but typically a lender will loan up to 4 times the amount of the guarantee. So if the government's going to guarantee up to $104,250, then the lender would probably loan somewhere around 4 times that amount. Because if you think about it, if I loan 4 times this amount, that means I have at least 25% is guaranteed. So the lender's thinking, well, even if we did have to foreclose, we could sell the property and get at least 75% back out of the sale of the property, because the first 25% up to $104,250 is guaranteed by the VA. So again, that might be another memory item. You just need to know the maximum the VA will guarantee is $104,250. Which of the following is not a characteristic of the Federal Housing Administration loan, or that's FHA? So which of the following is not a characteristic of an FHA loan? Well, A says a mortgage insurance premium is charged. That is a characteristic. If you get an FHA loan, you will be paying mortgage insurance. That's just the way it's going to be. B, the lender is insured against the load. That's a true statement. So that would not be the answer they're looking for. C, the maximum mortgage debt is determined by a formula. And then D, the FHA provides the money for the loan. D would be the incorrect statement, which is not a characteristic of an FHA loan. I will tell you, this is one I can almost guarantee you in some manner they're going to ask you on the state exam. I can about guarantee it happens people tell me pretty much every time they've taken the exam when I talk to people that this was something they asked. Look, does the FHA loan money? No. All the FHA does, they insure the loan. So where do you get an FHA loan? An approved lending institution or a lender that's been approved to provide FHA loans. So you get the loan from the lender. All the FHA does is insure the loan against losses and so forth. So D says the FHA provides the money. That is not true. So D should be the right answer. That is not a characteristic of an FHA loan. All right. A mortgage that covers more than one parcel of real property is a mortgage that covers more than one parcel. Well, let's take a look here. A junior mortgage. Well, what is a junior mortgage? That's really, I remember talking, hopefully, if you've completed the course already, or taken a real estate course, then there's a thing called the priority of liens. And a lien, remember, a mortgage is a lien. And liens or mortgages are prioritized based on the time and date the lien was recorded. So if I'm buying a house, obviously borrowing money to buy the house, that becomes the primary lien. That's the first lien on this property. So that's the primary lien. But if maybe in the future I take out a second loan, a home equity loan or something of that line or of that nature, then that's what we call a junior mortgage. It would be second or lower in the priority than the primary loan. Okay. B is a blanket mortgage, and I will tell you that's the right answer. A blanket mortgage will cover more than one parcel of land. In fact, let's just go ahead and talk about it because that's the right answer, I will tell you. So what do you mean about more than one parcel? How does that work? Well, say I'm a developer or builder, and I bought this 100-acre tract of land, and obviously my intentions are I'm going to subdivide it into lots and blocks, build houses on each lot, and then sell off the lots. Well, see, assuming the builder borrowed the money to purchase the land, there's now a lien on that 100-acre tract of land, right? So can that builder sell off one lot at a time to individuals when there's a lien on the property? No. Remember, because a lien is an encumbrance, and that renders that property unmarketable. So you can't sell it as long as there's a lien on the property. So what the builder would have to do, they would have to talk to the lender about this, and obviously they would be looking at getting what we call a blanket mortgage. And by financing the 100-acre tract as a blanket mortgage, basically what they're saying is this, or what the agreement is, builder, you can go ahead and sell off the individual lots, but the agreement being when you do sell off an individual lot, some percentage, and again, that would be agreed upon in the loan, but some percentage of the sales price would have to go back towards paying off the loan. So that's what we call a blanket mortgage, where basically now you have several, or at least more than one parcel of land that's covered under this loan. So it's kind of under a large blanket, if that helps you a little bit. But real quick, C is a package mortgage, and a package mortgage is when you're financing both real property and personal property in the same loan. Maybe you're buying a brand new condominium and it comes fully furnished. So you're not going to buy anything. It's already fully furnished. So the loan covers both the real property and the personal property. That's what a package mortgage does. And then the last one, there's an open-end mortgage. An open-end mortgage where basically you borrow money, or they will loan you up to a predetermined amount. I'm just making up a number, say $50,000. And you can really just sort of make draws on that money. It's kind of there at your disposal. You can, now, first of all, you pull it all out and spend it, do whatever you want to do, as long as you're paying it back. But as you pay it back, and put it back into the pot, so to speak, you're allowed to take it back out. So you're allowed to take it out, put it back, take it out, put it back. It's kind of like a revolving line of credit. And I will tell you, that's what an open-end mortgage is. But the more common name for it is a home equity line of credit. It's just an open line of credit. So we said B would be the right answer, and lo and behold, it is. It's a blanket mortgage that covers more than one parcel. All right. Next question. Granting a conventional loan requires that the borrower provide the lender with which of the following? Granting a conventional loan requires the borrower to provide the lender with which of the following? So if you're going to get a conventional loan, basically what documents are going to be required here? A says the sales contract and a hypothecation instrument. That's not right. Well, first of all, what's a hypothecation? What does hypothecation mean? Hypothecation means you're pledging the property as security, but you're not giving up possession. So by having this hypothecation provision in the mortgage, what the lender's saying, because you are pledging the property as security, if you don't make your payments, we could come take the property back from you. But while you're making the payments, you can maintain or keep possession. In other words, you can stay here or live here while you're making the payments. That's what they're talking about with hypothecation. But that's not the two documents required in borrowing or getting a conventional loan. B, a mortgage and the promissory note. That's the two instruments involved in borrowing money. That would be the right answer. Remember, the promissory note, that's the actual loan. The mortgage is the security for the loan. So obviously, if you're borrowing money, you got to first sign the promissory note, which that's what you do at closing when you buy the house. You sign the promissory note, but then the next document you'll have signed is the mortgage. And again, the mortgage is the security. That's the lien. By signing the mortgage, you're saying, if I don't pay it back as promised, then the lender can come back or come in and take the property back. But so B would be the right answer. But looking at the other one, C says deed of trust and a sales contract. Sales contract is not part of the loan. Okay, it is necessary to get the loan, but it's not part of the loan. You need to be familiar with. There's really three instruments involved potentially. More than likely just be two, but in some cases there could be three instruments required in getting a loan: the promissory note, the mortgage, and occasionally, depending on the transaction, it could require a deed of trust. But the sales contract is not one of the documents in borrowing money. Okay, and then D, the mortgage and letter of intent. Obviously, letter of intent that is not part of the loan instrument. It's got to be one of the three that I just told you. All right, so the right answer here is B, mortgage and promissory note. Hopefully these are not too difficult, I hope. But then question 49 says, you finance the purchase of a home by means of deed of trust. So here we are talking about that third instrument, which is not common, but it is used. But then it says, until you pay off the debt, title will be held by. Now, obviously, so let's make sure we understand what deed of trust means. Deed of trust means that the deed will be held in trust by a third party. So in other words, say if I'm buying the house, I'm not going to get the deed because the deed's going to be in trust. So the borrower does not get title to the property, but neither does the lender. Again, because it's going to be held in trust. Again, this is the third party. So, so immediately when we say, we're asking who will title be held by, well, I'm thinking either A or B got to be the right answer, right? Because we're dealing with the trust, so it has to be either the trustee or the trustor. And there's that EE and OR again. Well, who's going to be receiving the trust? Because that's basically what the question's asking. It will be held by somebody, and that means either going to be receiving the trust or giving the trust. Well, the answer is they're going to be receiving the trust. So who receives, the EE or OR? Remember, EE receives. So A is going to be the right answer. Again, C is the seller. We already talked about that. The seller is not holding title. Neither is the beneficiary. Y'all, anytime you use deed of trust, or if that's been applied or used or applicable, y'all, that means the title or deed to the property will be held in trust. In this case, until the debt is paid off. So it will be held by the trustee. Yeah, I know some of this stuff can seem a little complicated, but it's really not that bad. It's just, you got to relax your mind a little bit, get rid of some of the anxiety that we're dealing with. I wish there was something I could say to just make anxiety disappear, but y'all just don't worry about it. I mean, you got to go into the test thinking, I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? Might have to do it again, y'all, and then we'll do it again. But y'all, that's what successful people do. They fail and they do it again. But y'all, that's the mark of a successful person. So anyway, relax your mind, get rid of the anxiety, and let your mind kind of work through these questions and answers. And hopefully some of this practice stuff we're doing right now will help you.